Right, this is some advanced training for Montarbo Skincare employees. This is uh, using the Montarbo method. This is not to be done at home. This has taken me over a decade to learn. Many accidents could occur. I'm just showing you kind of what I do to cause a deep exfoliation on my partner, and I will continue to narrate through the video. Enjoy. All right, so what I'm doing here is I am determining how sensitive his skin is so that we don't get carried away. So I'm using our gentle cleanser just to soothe the skin and calm it a little bit before we go in with our advanced exfoliating cleanser. We don't want to get carried away. This is really important to kind of love on the skin as much as possible and to be very aware of what we're dealing with, because a lot of people are not aware of what they're using that could cause sensitivity on the skin, or they're not quite used to our type of treatments, which are a little bit stronger. Now I'm going in with my advanced cleanser because I want to exfoliate his skin really well. I left the gentle cleanser on just to continue to soothe the skin and buffer it a little bit. His skin is always a little bit more red and sensitive, so I'm always a little bit more cautious, but when his skin gets red, I'm not concerned about it anymore. A lot of people have that type of skin where it's just easily, flushed and red and sensitive. But it doesn't mean that we can't still do an incredible treatment that is a little bit more on the aggressive side by just being mindful of the skin, watching the skin, and using less solution and adding more as we need it. So I'm spending a lot of time just cleansing, in order to get a very predictable peel that peels quickly. It's always about the prep and that first exfoliation with the cleanser, because if we don't exfoliate the top layer of skin, then the acid is a little unpredictable, trying to get through dead skin buildup that is very difficult to try to get through. I'm making sure that I remove all cleanser from his skin. And now I'm using our new Salicylic treatment, which was the blemish treatment before. Now it has azelaic acid, vitamin B, to just help with brightening and pores and further penetration of what we put down. We always do this every single time on every single client because we need to exfoliate again. And then also the beta hydroxy is a vehicle, so it goes into the pore, it dissolves oil, and oil neutralizes all acid. So we want to make sure there's no oil on the skin or any debris or anything, because then the peel will not be as beautiful, and the main solution could absorb too quickly or not enough because there's oil left on the skin. So the salicylic treatment, or this part of the prep, is extremely important so that when we put the next product on the skin, which is the lactic, it will absorb evenly, perfectly, and quickly. All right, so now I'm going to layer on his skin our advanced lactic brightening treatment. This is always done after the salicylic treatment. This determines how sensitive his skin is, how much acid his skin can tolerate. It also helps to, it's just like a really good test and gauge before we go in with a peel, or the main peel solution. We always want to make sure that the skin is able to tolerate. And this is a big thing that happens a lot of times. People just go in with an acid, not realizing the skin, it hasn't been prepped, it hasn't been trained, it hasn't been seasoned, it's not able to handle or tolerate that much heat or inflammation and acidity from a product. So the lactic is incredible for hydrating the skin, buffering it a little bit, causing more exfoliation, so that when we do go in with the main acid, we're not needing to use as much. And I'm putting it on here with a brush to get further absorption. I really want this to work and penetrate his skin so that I can use even less solution or less acid moving forward. Even if we were to stop here and finish with the lactic and then just do a mask, this would be an incredible treatment, which is like an intense facial or a mini peel, which we do on clients. So, but he is wanting to go pretty deep with a peel. So I'm always observing the skin, seeing how reactive, how sensitive, how red, his pain tolerance from 0 to 10, 10 being terrible, 0 being nothing. A lot of people have an unrealistic idea of their pain tolerance because some people don't want you to take the acid off, or some people don't really know like how much irritation is happening on their skin. And some people are also just not wanting to admit it because we sometimes don't want to admit that we might be in pain. So we always have to be like really mindful of where someone is at and how they process information and pain so that we keep them safe, because I've had a few times in my career where I wasn't paying attention and listening and observing the client, but then, or I wasn't listening to my instinct. I was listening to the client, and the client said they were fine, but then their skin was acting interesting, but I just trusted them instead of myself. And then I poured an acid on them, and it caused a burn or too much exfoliation, or their skin was just too sensitive, or they end up peeling too long, or they just can't handle it. So part of my job is to give clients what they want, but always to trust what I'm observing and my instinct, so that we don't get in a situation where somebody is, one, not happy, two, not able to tolerate it, three, gets a burn or a scar. I'm continuing to layer more and more lactic into the skin, because the more I do this, really, the less acid in the future I'm going to need to use on him as we proceed. So this will just continue to absorb and exfoliate. I do go right under the eye. This is not recommended for home. This is professional. We are watching it we're observing it and rinse it off really quickly. So um, but the eye area is often neglected, and I see people that have darkness under their eye, and they really could benefit from giving their under eye and their eyelids some love with some mild exfoliation and treatment. So I think that it's like we want to try to treat all areas of the skin. Now I'm going back in with my advanced cleanser, and the reason is I just feel the need to do so. I'm trying to exfoliate as much as possible because his skin is sensitive, and so the more alpha hydroxy acid I can use and exfoliation I cause, the more erythema that is occurring before the main peel solution, which I haven't quite decided yet, um, really allows me to just keep his skin really safe, and to maybe even need to stop. Like at some point, I may decide to stop and not even proceed with the main peel. That's something that's really important when we're doing peels, is to, not just assume that we can do a peel always on someone, or that we are always going to do 5 layers of that peel solution, because at any time during the treatment, as we're doing right now, we could discover that actually his skin can't handle anymore. And how I would know that is that there is a lot of erythema, which is the redness or swelling, or that his pain tolerance is so high, not so high that his pain tolerance is low and he's uncomfortable. And so that would mean that we would reschedule him and to have him come back. I always use cold 4x4s, nothing hot ever, because when dealing with acid, the skin can become more dry, irritated, and red with heat. So cold is also very refreshing for the client. I always do the eyes first, remove acid, remove anything and everything around the eye area first, just in case. And when we are applying anything near the eyes, we're not using anything that's dripping. It's just the essence of a solution still left on there. So it's a minimal amount of solution that we put near the eyes always. so it's not like we're using the same amount that we would use on the forehead. Now I'm going back in with the salicylic treatment, always before I put down any solution, any acid, we always use the salicylic acid just to have another layer of exfoliation, capitalize on the salicylic being a vehicle, making sure nothing is left on the skin like oil or something I've missed or even dead skin, so that when we layer whatever else after this down onto the skin, it's going to absorb beautifully and perfectly. Just analyzing his skin after all we've done to see what's next. I'm now using our professional 35% gel, which is alpha hydroxy, glycolic, whatever you want to say. It seems pretty high, but again, I'm trying to bank off of as much exfoliation as I can achieve with the alpha hydroxy acids, so that if we were to stop and not do the main peel, that he would have an excellent treatment regardless, and then reschedule him. So he's probably going to feel this right away because it's 35%. And I'm just brushing a little bit on. I'm not trying to layer a thick layer on because we've already done so much, and you can see how red his skin is, which we call erythema, which is what we really want. That allows us to know kind of how deep we are into the skin and how much reaction is occurring on the skin, which is really important to know because when we're doing peels, we want to control the depth and the absorption. Because if we don't, then you can get into the issues because you can cause scarring by having the acid penetrate too deep into the skin, into the dermis, which is out of our area of expertise anyway, and it is not fun for the client, and they would peel too long and they would just have a lot of issues. So I'm trying to use just a little bit of this 35% gel to cause a little bit more exfoliation, a little bit more stimulation and erythema, so that I know how deep I am in the skin, which is probably, several layers into the epidermis, and then I can use minimal solution, which I think I'm going to use a Jessner solution first. Here I'm just rubbing the gel in so that it's even. Um, the more I use, the longer I leave it in, the more I, continue to work it in, the more it will absorb deeper into the skin layers. Now I am going in with cold 4x4s that have neutralizer on them, which he might feel. So this is really important that we neutralize really anything over 15% so that we stop absorption. This is critical so that we don't cause, especially PIH. And now I'm spraying more neutralizer on him just to be safe, to stop all heat and inflammation as much as possible in the skin. I'm going in again with more neutralizer just to make sure. Because if I don't minimize some of the heat that has been caused from the higher percentage of alpha hydroxy, then we can run into issues with like pigmentation. I'm going in with a gel hydration mask just to calm the skin down, calm down some of that heat, minimize some of the redness, and to buffer the skin a little bit. Hydrated skin is healthy skin, happy skin, and the more hydrated the skin is, the better absorption rate of all acidic products. All right, now I'm going in with a cream. So he's got a lot of hydration from the first mask, now a cream mask. My gloves have that yellow tone because the mask, the gel mask, somehow stains the gloves, which is strange. This is really important, again, for moisture now, so that the main acid will just absorb beautifully. So it means that it's evenly absorbed into the skin. It doesn't look molted or white or sporadic. It's always about even absorption, controlling the acid, the depth of the acid. Now, because of this erythema, we're going to bank on that because the skin is already hot. Now, when we put whatever we put on it afterwards, we can use way less, which will cause not too much trauma or inflammation. So we can use a lower percentage instead of a too high of a percentage. We're going to do salicylic always just to make sure there's no oil on the skin, plus the BHA will allow the acid we put on after to penetrate more, a little better. I'm making sure all oil is off the skin from that mask because, again, that will cause unpredictable absorption. So I'm deciding to use a Jessner solution, and I'm getting my 2x2 wet, about 1/4 of the cotton, probably 1 cc about of solution, and I'm doing an outer perimeter pass all the way around the perimeter of the skin or face. The first pass is just a very light amount. It's again always about, just making sure they're comfortable and it's safe. So it's just the essence of acid. It's not like I'm pouring a whole bunch on that first pass, because even just with the essence of all, even with just the essence amount of solution, excuse me, even with applying such a little amount of solution, it could be enough after all we've done. So I don't want to just go in and pour a whole bunch of acid on him thinking, okay, now we're going to do the peel. So I want to see the skin, watch the skin, observe that first light pass and see what happens. He's already getting a minimal amount of frosting, which is considered more of a pseudo frost compared to like a TCA solution. So it's the powdering effect from the salicylic, which is the chemical reaction of neutralization. Because his skin is already frosting with just that light little pass, I'm actually just using what's left on my cotton to continue to absorb. And the reason his skin frosted so quick is because of everything else I've done, which is, um, quite a lot, and not for everyone, and something that's taken me a long time to learn. So, and every day I learn. Sometimes, what I did yesterday doesn't work today on a certain type of skin. So, you know, part of my goal is always to get the best outcome and to have them peel as quick as possible. So I'm going to be able to use very little amount of the main solution now because I've prepped his skin so beautifully. So he's already getting that wonderful pseudo frost, which is awesome. Now I'm adding a little bit more, just the essence underneath the eye, because that's an area he's, kind of concerned with, which is a little bit of a deviation of his skin and darkness. So he has a nice, beautiful frost, but I'm going to take it to the next level. I'm adding a 10% solution of TCA, just doing a very light pass all over. It's going to frost pretty quickly with the prep and the Jessner. So just a little bit, just a dash, and then I kind of wait and see what happens. So he is definitely feeling this, and you can see the frost occurring. This is a real frost. So this is the coagulation of protein and self-neutralization from the trihydrochloric acid in the skin. Continuing to use the solution, what's left of the solution, up so that I don't waste anything. It's all about an even frost. This has taken me a very long time to figure out and learn, but if the frost isn't even, then we have different depths of the, how do I say this? An even frost means that we have penetrated the skin evenly to a certain depth of the skin through the epidermis. So if it's darker in one area, lighter in another, and which is sometimes what we want because we don't always want to peel the whole face aggressively. Like maybe we choose an area that we want to work on more, and so we cause more absorption and frosting in that area, like the forehead, but not in the more sensitive areas of the face, like the cheeks. But in this situation, he wants a pretty, good peel. So I'm continuing to layer more TCA into the skin at 10% until I get a perfectly even glazed like frost. And I'm using some pressure and firmness with acid. I want to always control it. It is lethal. So I need to press it in pretty firmly to really get it to absorb in the areas that are not neutralizing yet. And I want to do this quickly because, if I spend a lot of time on the forehead and already put some on his cheeks, now the cheeks absorbed and neutralized and it hasn't caught up to the forehead. So I'm trying to work as quick as possible all over the whole face at the same time so we get an even frost and an even absorption. So now I'm using a little solution to spot treat to get the frost even. Some areas of the face take a little longer for this to occur because there's not as many oil follicles on the skin, like near the ears and outer perimeter of the jaw. You can definitely see he's frosting. It's starting to look even, but in the areas that are not, I continue to add so it creates a perfect and unison amount of color of kind of a whitish glazed look looking frost. You can see his forehead is frosting perfectly and beautifully. Each layer we wait about 3 to 5 minutes because there can be a delayed effect. Now I'm going in with my Pro Retinol because we've done so much to his skin. Sometimes we use a stronger retinol, but in this case, oops, I am just adding our cream formulation, which is a 3%. So this will help to regenerate new skin. It also calm down some of the peel a little bit. Nothing will neutralize TCA, but I do leave it on, and now I add the retinol. So this will moisturize a little bit, calm down some of the heat, and also cause some regeneration during the days that follow. So we're going to peel him and regenerate the skin so that we're getting a 2-for-1 where we are doing quite a bit to the skin to completely transform it. All right, guys, so we're wrapping up. This was a professional peel that is advanced training for my employees for the Montarbo method that we do in our office. This has taken me over a decade to learn, so this is not to be done at home. This is only done by a licensed professional. We did a lot to the skin that could cause a lot of reactions for somebody who doesn't know what they're doing. So we're always, trained to know what to do if an accident is occurring or if an accident does occur. And his skin will start peeling in 3 days and last for 3 days. If you have any questions and if you love this video, please share that below. Remember to stay gorgeous, and I'll leave a link to everything I used in the videos just so you can see if it resonates with you.